The biggest lesson from the Rockstar attack is simple. Modern attackers do not always smash through your front door. They often walk in through a tool you already trust. That is why this story matters far beyond gaming. If your business runs on SaaS apps, vendors, and integrations, your exposure now includes every connected access path. In April 2026, reports tied a breach at Rockstar Games to shiny hunters. The core claim was not just disruption. It was data exfiltration, with attackers stealing information and then using that access for leverage. From there, the timeline moved fast. The group was linked to a ransom demand, which fits a pattern we now see often. Steal first, prove access, then pressure the victim to pay. What made this incident especially notable was the likely cloud or third-party angle. Instead of deploying classic ransomware first, the attackers appeared to have abused trusted access connected to Rockstar's environment. That is why this is more than a company-specific story. It points to a supply chain attack model where one compromised login, session, or integration can expose far more than a single endpoint. Shiny Hunters is known for breach activity centered on stolen data, exposure, and extortion. The brand matters less than the method. Get in quietly, collect valuable information, and use that information as pressure. That is a major shift from traditional ransomware. Older attacks were loud. Systems were encrypted, operations stopped, and the damage was impossible to miss. Now the playbook is often stealthier. Attackers focus on data exfiltration first, then move into extortion once they can prove what they stole. That is why you hear the phrase double extortion. The victim may face both the threat of public exposure and the operational fallout that comes from a serious breach. Here is the simple version of how an attack like this likely happens. The attacker does not guess every password. They capture a working access token or active session and reuse that trust. Think of it like borrowing a visitor badge that security already approved. If the badge still works, the attacker can move around without forcing a locked door. That is where token hijacking and session theft matter. If a SaaS app, browser session, or identity workflow is compromised, the attacker may inherit legitimate access without looking suspicious at first. Trusted integrations make this worse. One app connects to another, one service syncs data to a second platform, and suddenly, a compromise can travel along approved pathways. That is why this is often described as a supply chain attack. The weak point may not be your main environment at all. It may be a connected vendor, plugin, or cloud workflow you already depend on. The reported risk was not limited to a simple customer list. Internal operational data, development materials, access details, and workflow information can all be extremely valuable to attackers. Why does that matter so much? Because internal data shows how a business works. It can reveal systems, people, processes, dependencies, and future projects. Even when customer exposure is not confirmed, stolen internal data can still drive extortion, reputational pressure, follow-on phishing, and deeper compromise later on. For business leaders, that is the key point. Data does not need to be public-facing to be dangerous in the wrong hands. Classic ransomware usually announces itself right away. Files are encrypted, screens light up, and operations grind to a halt. This pattern is different. The first move is often data exfiltration, not shutdown. Attackers want the information before anyone realizes they are there. That creates a double extortion problem. Even if systems stay up for a while, the business can still face payment pressure, disclosure pressure, and expensive recovery work. In other words, they may be logging in rather than breaking in. That is exactly why identity, sessions, and third-party trust have become central security issues. The bigger story in 2026 is not one company or one threat group. It is the way modern businesses now operate across dozens of SaaS platforms, identity providers, and connected vendors. That SaaS sprawl creates convenience, but it also creates hidden pathways. Every approved integration is a potential bridge between systems. Shared infrastructure raises the stakes even more. If one trusted tool is compromised upstream, many organizations can feel the impact downstream. This is why third-party risk is now operational risk. Security teams are no longer just defending devices. They are defending an ecosystem of access. For SMBs, that matters because smaller teams often adopt tools quickly, connect them widely, and never get a full map of who can reach what. So what should a business do next? Start with your third-party tools. Inventory every vendor, plugin, and SaaS integration that has access to company data or identity systems. Then remove what you do not need. Unused integrations, abandoned accounts, and old API connections create risk without adding value. Next, enforce MFA everywhere you can, especially on admin accounts, identity platforms, and vendor-facing tools. MFA is not perfect, but it still blocks a huge amount of preventable access abuse. After that, watch for token hijacking and session theft. Monitor unusual session behavior, impossible travel, abnormal token reuse, and new access patterns that do not fit normal work. Keep access tight with least privilege. Then back it up with continuous monitoring through EDR and SOC. The goal is simple. Limit how far an attacker can move, and catch them faster if they do. If you remember one thing, make it this. Review who has access, why they have it, and whether that access is still justified. If you run a small or mid-sized business, it is easy to assume attacks like this only hit global brands. In reality, SMEs often have the same SaaS exposure with far less visibility. You may have accounting tools, CRM systems, file sharing, payroll, support software, marketing apps, and identity services all connected behind the scenes. A breach in that web can mean downtime, incident response costs, legal review, customer communication, and weeks of recovery. For many SMBs, the business impact hurts more than the technical cleanup. The Rockstar incident shows where cyber risk is heading. Attackers target trust, not just technology. Before your next breach starts in someone else's tool, review your third-party access and tighten weak connections now. To strengthen third-party security and reduce SaaS-related risk, work with your internal IT team or a trusted cybersecurity partner such as vulnerabilities to review access, secure integrations, and improve your overall security posture.